propose that we proceed in an audio-only capacity?
Yeah, that's fine. I think we should do that.
Okay, all right, let us get started as we are at 11:30. So, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm James Appleby, Chairman of the Board of Roslyn, and all of the other directors are present, including Roger Bullen, Hugh Cox, Ash Mehta, Paul Watts, Barney Quinn, and Ginny Wall. As you are aware, during the period of the pandemic, the company, like many others, has chosen not to have a physical meeting, which we're not allowed to do at the moment. So may I take this opportunity to welcome you to this all slightly strange virtual meeting. This is being streamed live on YouTube, but there appears to be, audio is fine, but it appears there's a bit of an issue with the video, but audio should be okay. It will also be recorded and put up on our website and on YouTube later on today. As you'll be aware, the company asked for questions to be sent in advance of the AGM. We received about a dozen of these. As none of them relate directly to the resolutions, what we're going to do is do the resolutions first, the formal part of the business, and then answer the questions after, and I'll be chairing and asking the different directors to bring an answer. It is now 11:30 a.m., the time appointed for the meeting, and there is a quorum of members present, so we can start. The notice of this meeting has been in your hands for more than the statutory minimum period, and we can therefore proceed with the meeting. I ask that, with your permission, we take the notice of this meeting as read. Is that agreed?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you all. The financial statements have been in your hands for more than the statutory period of 21 days. An account of the developments during this period was included in the strategic report and the director's report within those accounts. We will now proceed with the business before us. The first item of ordinary business, as set out on the notice of the AGM, relates to the annual report. As the independent auditor's report is quite long, I ask that you agree to take this as read. I would, however, like to confirm that in the auditor's opinion, the financial statements give a true and fair value of the state of affairs of the group and the parent at the 30th of April 2020, and the loss for the year then ended, and they have been properly prepared in accordance with the Companies Act of 2006. Is it agreed that we take the independent auditor's report as read?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you. So, on to Resolution 1. I propose that the company's annual financial statements, together with the reports of the directors and that of the auditor of the company for the year to 30th of April 2020, laid before this meeting, be and are hereby received and adopted. I now put the resolution to the meeting. Those in favour?
Aye. Yeah.
Thank you all. For shareholders' information, I will be giving you the details of the proxy voting on each of the resolutions before you vote today, following the vote on each on a show of hands. The voting numbers will also be issued on RNS later today. So for Resolution 1, the votes attached to 165,811,204 ordinary shares on a poll would have been cast by proxy in favour of the resolution, and no votes would have been cast against it. Resolution 2, that Grant Thornton UK LLP be reappointed as auditor of the company to hold office from the conclusion of this meeting until the conclusion of the next annual general meeting of the company. I will put the resolution to the meeting. Those in favour, please raise your hands. And those against? I am pleased to declare this resolution carried. The votes attached to 165,702,254 ordinary shares on a poll would have been cast by proxy in favour of the resolution, and 108,950 votes would have been cast against it. On to Resolution 3, I propose that the directors of the company be authorised to determine the auditor's remuneration, and I'll put this resolution to the meeting. Those in favour, please raise your hands or say aye.
Aye.
And those against? I declare the resolution carried. The votes attached to 165,801,554 shares on a poll would have been cast by proxy in favour of the resolution, and 9,650 would have been cast against it. The next resolution concerns the election and re-election of directors. Company law requires that each of these resolutions be separately proposed and voted upon. So resolution 4, I propose that Paul Watt, who retires as a director, having been appointed since the last AGM, be elected as a director of the company. All those, I'll put the resolution to the meeting. Those in favour, please raise your hands or say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. And those against, please raise your hand or say aye. I declare the resolution carried. The votes attached to 165,702,254 ordinary shares on a poll would have been cast by proxy in favour of the resolution, and 108,950 votes would have been cast against it. Resolution number 5, I propose that Hugh Cox, who retires as a director by rotation, be re-elected as a director of the company. I put the resolution to the meeting. Those in favour, please raise your hand or say aye.
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 Thank you all. And those against? I declare the resolution is carried. The votes attached to 165,702,254 ordinary shares on a poll would have been cast by proxy in favour of the resolution, and 108,950 votes would have been cast against it. Resolution 6, I propose that Barney Quinn, who retires as a director by rotation, be re-elected as a director of the company. I put the resolution to the meeting. Those in favour, please raise your hand or say aye.
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 Thank you all. Those against, please raise your hand or say aye. I declare the resolution carried. The votes attached to 165,702,254 ordinary shares on a poll would have been cast by proxy in favour of the resolution, and 108,950 votes would have been cast against it. On to resolution 7. So resolution 7 will, if passed, grant authority to the directors of the company to allot ordinary shares of 0.5p, so £0.005 each in the capital of the company. Resolution 7.1 allows the directors to allot ordinary shares in respect of share options and warrants that are already in existence. And resolution 7.2 permits the directors to further allot shares up to an aggregate nominal value of £84,728, which is approximately 5% of the company's issued share capital. And then resolution 7.3 permits directors to allot shares up to an aggregate nominal value of £169,457, which represents approximately 10% of the company's issued share capital. Any further issues of share capital over and above these amounts will require the directors to seek a fresh approval from shareholders. Unless revoked, varied or extended, the directors' authorities granted pursuant to this resolution will expire on the earlier of the date, which is 15 months after the resolution is passed and the conclusion of the next annual general meeting of the company. With all that said, and with your permission, I propose to take this ordinary resolution, which is set out in full on the notice of the meeting, as read. Is that agreed? Please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. I now propose, as an ordinary resolution, resolution 7 as set out in the notice of meeting. I put the resolution to the meeting. Those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
And those against? I declare the resolution is carried. On the proxy, the votes attached to 165,801,554 ordinary shares on a poll would have been cast by proxy in favour of the resolution, and 9,650 votes would have been cast against it. We can now deal with the special business of this meeting, which is resolution 8. This gives the directors of the company the authority to allot equity securities on a non-preemptive basis solely for the purposes of an allotment of shares in the company pursuant to an authority given by resolution 7. It will disapply the statutory preemption rights for such allotments until the earlier of the date, which is 15 months after the resolution is passed and the conclusion of the next annual general meeting of the company. So resolution 8, I now propose as a special resolution as set out in the notice of the meeting. I put the resolution to the meeting. Those in favour, please raise your hand and or say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And those against? So we have the required 75% majority, and I declare the resolution is carried. For the proxy, the votes attached to 165,702,254 ordinary shares on a poll would have been cast by proxy in favour of the resolution, and 108,950 votes would have been cast against it. So that concludes the formal part of the business. So I'd now like to move to the informal part and the Q&A piece. So apologies while I just pull these questions up. I seem to have dropped out of my inbox. So I think we were very pleased to get a series of questions that came through overnight over the last week or two. And I think there were some very good questions that came out of it. And I think what I'm going to do now is try and make this a little less formal and hopefully a bit more informative. So first questions, and we've blocked them into a series of different categories. I'm not going to say who asked the question, because this obviously will be public always. So the first question I think is for Ginny to start with, and then maybe Roger to comment on, which is, what are the trends in the procurement arena, and what is Roslyn doing to address them?
Thanks, James. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, perfectly.
Excellent. Okay. So I think my reflection of this is that, as a current practicing CPO, I've seen the value of the procurement function within businesses over the years ebb and flow. And I think the one thing that remains consistent is that in times of austerity, financial crisis, the procurement team's value and worth is always elevated, which is, a great thing and something that Roslyn can really help people with. So I think the key thing is that we must never, as CPOs, be caught sleeping at the wheel. I think the really most important thing is around the trends that I'm seeing is the real criticality of CPOs to know their supply chains inside out. So what they're spending money on, where they're spending it, and what their current exposure is within their supply chains. So making sure that the supply chain is sustainable, having accurate, transparent, easy to access data is absolutely key to delivering this requirement in businesses. Do CPOs understand their strategic suppliers? Are they spreading their available business too thinly? And I think another key area as well is making sure that they keep an open dialogue with their suppliers in a transparent and regular way. So I think another key area which I see myself and on various different conferences that I've been participating in, risk management and monitoring is key, and that one of the key inputs to this is using data to model scenarios. I think the critical thing is being able to spot the smoke signals before the flames start. And, an organisation like Roslyn offers such a wide range of tools and techniques to do this, that this is an absolute key part of the solutions that we're offering. Making sure that you know where the risks are in different business scenarios. If something big changes, being able to remodel the data to understand where your exposure is. I think the key thing is making sure that you're not at the back of the queue. So let the data fuel the creativity. They're the key themes that I'm seeing at the moment.
That's great. Thanks very much, Ginny. It's very insightful. Roger, I don't know if you've got anything to add and perhaps how contextualise that.
I totally agree with Ginny. And following on from what Ginny said, the Roslyn Spend Management platform and our solution now joins all the procurement data together in one place. The supplier onboarding, the supplier lifecycle management, risk monitoring, spend analytics. All of that data is available and shared across all of the modules that sit within the platform. And they all utilize that single same source of data, what's known in the industry as a golden record. That's quite a significant step that we've taken over the last 12, 18 months in developing our solution. and it's something that we're very focused on now. And I'm sure Paul will talk a bit later on when we go into the sales sort of strategy of how we're looking at our go-to-market. But when you overlay all of that with things such as the performance management of your suppliers, the savings and the target tracking and what you're delivering, what you're providing the procurement team with is the ability to become a strategic sourcing advisor within an organization, rather than, and I hate to use the word, but I'll use it anyway, the executioner type role of driving down costs, which was where procurement was always looked at. Procurement now needs to step up, and that's what we're seeing as a change in the industry, where it's becoming much more involved earlier in the life cycle of onboarding and choosing a supplier, and being able to provide business insights and really speed of execution. And our platform and our solution provides those fundamental tools for within the procurement's arsenal.
That's great. Thanks very much, Roger. And it's brilliant to see how much we've progressed on the product and propositioning side over the last year. Next question goes on to Hugh, because it's around data security as our Chief Data Officer. We at Roslyn do hold a great deal of client data. How seriously do we take data security, and are clients' demands changing in this regard?
Thanks. Yes, data security is taken very seriously by the board, the executive team, as well as all the employees of the company. As part of my duties, and also the company's Chief Information Security Officer, the responsibility for the security of both internal data and client-related data falls strictly on my shoulders. In order to ensure that we maintain the highest levels of security, we twice annually are audited for adherence to the ISO 27001 standards, which really is a prerequisite for any data company. And that's just been passed again last month with flying colors. Our platform is hosted in the Microsoft Azure environment, and therefore we benefit from the security, resilience, and high availability of that platform. We also carry out comprehensive third-party penetration testing on an annual basis. Now, these tests last for several weeks across the data centers and offices, and the results which come out of those tests are then analyzed, prioritized, and addressed. A then further penetration test is then carried out to confirm that the standards have been achieved. These tests are also supplemented by daily vulnerability scans, which allow the security team to keep up to date with the latest cyber threats as they occur and as they develop. As part of our evolution, we've also, after several months of investigation, now selected a SIEM solution. Now, SIEM is a security information and event management solution from a company named Splunk, who are the leaders in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for these type of security implementation solutions. This, combined with the existing Microsoft Azure Security Center solutions, I think will provide us with the strongest available security and cyber exposure and protection we can at this stage in our growth.
That's great, thanks, Hugh. It's very comprehensive, and I can add that I see the communications that come out to the company and the communications to the board, and it's certainly something that's taken extremely seriously. Are you seeing any changes in client demands, Hugh, on that?
Yes, what used to be a kind of, I suppose it's aligned to our thinking behind the adoption of a comprehensive SIEM solution. That is now become part of the RFIs, where they're asking for further security enhancements and where are you in the security maturity curve. And I'm pleased to say we are very much up there at the kind of top of the range as far as security processes are concerned. There's always room for improvement. You can never be complacent, but we are doing all we can to make sure that we are aligning ourselves to the expectation of our clients, both current and also future.
Brilliant, that's great. Thank you very much indeed. So on to the third question, which is one for Paul. So Paul, you've come to Roslyn to grow revenues. How scalable do you see the business being based on the current product set that we have?
Thanks, James. Obviously, 3 months in, and I come with a little bit of knowledge in the space, having have operated it and run line of business for Cooper before, which is in the procurement space. There's a couple of ways of looking at this. Obviously, the most simplistic one is just looking at the total addressable market. So the total addressable market of where we operate, of a best of breed platform for spend, is an enormous market. And fundamentally, we're just not on enough pitches. We're not getting out there and playing in enough games. So I think that the total addressable market for us is very much bigger than we're getting close to. In terms of our ability to scale the business into that total addressable market is really a case of focus. We deliver for our customers I've been and spoken to most of the customers in the first 3 months. The size of ROI and business impact that we have on our customers is just, quite unbelievable, to be honest with you. We're talking sometimes not even tens of millions of dollars of impact, hundreds of millions of dollars of business savings that people are realizing through, projects that have Roslyn as a backbone to them. So I think, our job in sort of getting, maximizing our ability to scale against that total addressable market is to get more stories out there, voice of the customer out there, and make it easier for people to roll these projects out. Now that takes, a bit of fine tuning of the way we sell, the way we deliver, and the way that customers come and participate in the process with us. And that's obviously valid for the Roslyn Rapid product. It's just as valid, if not more valid. While the savings might not be as great for Langdon, the market, which we'll get onto with some of the downstream questions, is very, very dynamic right now. I think, there is a marketplace there, and it's going to be down to our ability to focus, to, try and make sure we are selling and servicing customers where we have good geographical reference, good vertical market reference, and good best practice reference. You're on mute, I think.
Thank you. Rookie error. That's really useful. Thanks very much, Paul. So that actually takes us neatly onto the next lot, which is Langdon. So there's a few questions on Langdon. The first one is, are Langdon systems experiencing considerable demand for their services for duty management procedures now Brexit is almost upon us? I think that's for you, Paul.
Well, as I'm sure it's no surprise to anybody, our Langdon telephone rings a lot. And there are a lot of people out there in, both the UK and the European marketplace trying to figure out what's going on, knowing that, there is budget being allocated by the government. I think it's £50 million that people can spend on a grant. I think it's very difficult for us to know, what that demand actually, how big is that demand? It's just compared to where we've come from, it's like nothing Langdon's ever seen in its, I think, nearly 30-year history, 25-year history. So, our job is to make sure that we've put an exercise together. Obviously, the breadth of requirement in this marketplace is quite big. We've looked at where our technology has the perfect fit, very dynamic solution, very low, very easy to adopt solution. And the teams are very focused on, we're going to win a segment of that marketplace, and it's significant, and it's going to fuel, excellent growth potential for us at Langdon. So I'm sure it's of no surprise to many people that, it's not like when you're normally selling technology where the requirements have been shaped over time and lots of half steps in projects that people learn how to fine tune and do this. Right now, people are being, they're being thrust into a storm of changing policy, changing governance practices, internal demands and expectations, but it's a great opportunity for us.
Great, thank you. And then a question linking the two together then, which is, are there opportunities for cross-selling the services of Langdon and Roslyn?
Well, I mean, that's quite a simple issue, really. Where in our Langdon customer base, if you just take an 80-20 rule, we have some big customers there. Tesco being one branded name, I'd say, has been using the product for some time. Clearly, they spend lots of money. They're a multi-billion dollar company. They're absolutely in the sweet spot of Roslyn and the value add that Roslyn can provide to them. It's still early stages. I think the early stages with the Langdon customers was to make them feel confident that we were committed to Langdon, and that Langdon platform was going to be sustained over the long period and be invested in. I think the opportunities for cross-selling and for those customers to be talking to each other through a consistent engagement, our customer success engagement practices will not differentiate whether you're a large Langdon user, a large Roslyn user, medium-sized user. We have a best practice we will adopt. And I think hopefully, over the next 12 months, we'll see some of the first actual results of that cross-selling start to hit the impact of the business.
Great, thank you very much indeed. So sticking with Langdon, but moving to Roger. So is Langdon a profitable organisation in its own right?
I think the best way to answer this is we've been able to maintain most of the customers, greater than 90% of the customers that we brought across when we acquired Langdon a year ago. But since that acquisition, we have actually been investing in the product set quite significantly. We've built what's known as the CDS solution, which was going to be a replacement for Chief, which was meant to go live in September 2020, but for various reasons, not solely COVID, that has been deferred for a number of, for 2 years, in fact, as a minimum, maybe longer.
And just to be clear, that's a government system, right?
That's a government system, yes. But it was something that we have to obviously enter our data into. So it's something that we had to comply with, and that was the deadline. So we invested heavily in that. And since then, with following on from what Paul was saying, with Brexit coming up, we decided that we would build a very simple, pure SaaS-based solution, customs cloud, that was easy for our customers to implement and to adopt. And that's where a lot of the phone calls are coming from now that we're receiving, and where we're going to see, I think, much of the growth over the next 6 months, maybe 18 months, dependent on how long people really start to decide when they're going to automate their solutions for submitting customs declaration. So I think that at this moment in time, Langdon is covering itself. I wouldn't describe it as profitable because it depends on how the allocation methodologies are, but it's definitely on the road to being a profitable part of the business in a fairly short time frame.
Great, thank you.
If I then go to the next part, actually, the growth within Roslyn, it's a really difficult question to answer. We know that Brexit's there. We know there are a lot of business potential out there. How big it is and how many suppliers or how many clients there are actually who will require a solution is a bit of an unknown to us. As Paul was saying, the phones are ringing all the time. There's a lot of money out there available in government grants, and we're doing everything we can to maximize the opportunity for us.
Okay, thank you. So moving on to a completely different topic, which is COVID, and really a bit of commentary, Roger, I think from you on how, what's been the impact of COVID for us.
Yeah, so if we look at it from our clients' side and then from our own internal side, so for the clients, we have clients in many industries, and some of those industries have been significantly impacted, in particular the travel industry and the hospitality businesses that are out there. And once we understood back in April, I think, we actually launched our dashboard for COVID to actually help our clients see how the COVID was impacting their business and how they could react to it. And because we're across a lot of verticals, we didn't really notice much impact on ourselves, but we knew the value we were delivering to our client base. And one of the things we did see is the solution that we offer being used and accessed far more frequently by those clients. And they're actually asking us to help in building new dashboards, providing better data insights, providing better information for them. And we've continued to do that right the way through this process. We're still doing a daily update of COVID spread across the globe to all of our clients as part of their daily refresh on their dashboards. So from a sales point of view, internally, it's definitely slowed down some of the decisions that our clients are making about when they're buying. Nothing has really been taken off the table of any note, but things have been deferred where decisions were going to be taking place in June, July, August. We're still waiting on those decisions, September and October. But it's not hurting us in the implementations of projects that have already been signed. Those that have been signed, we're still implementing. You don't have the same interaction of being face-to-face on a client site and being able to do the iterative processing that you would normally do. Things take slightly longer, but I think we're all accepting of that. We've got used to the remote working. We're used to it. So I think that from the internal and the operational side of it, we're in a very good place. Paul, do you have anything to say on the sales side of it, how you're seeing that impact us?
Yeah, it was good because it would touch on to the next question. But I think it's interesting, and you look at other companies operating in the P2P space. COVID has basically triggered lots of what you call more narrow-based projects that offer a quick ROI or a quick business impact, rather than the big transformational projects of rip and replacing of old systems to new systems, because they know those projects can be 12 months. I know from my time at Cooper, they're 12, 15, 18 months in length sometimes. So I think we're probably seeing a bit more demand because of the more granular nature of our value add. But like you said, the decision making is taking longer. I think there's more things in the hopper for most of these customers to make decisions on, and projects are getting signed off a bit slower. But I think it just sharpens the pencil for the need for us to build stronger business case. And if we build the right business cases, that will, I think people will get used to buying in this COVID environment. They're trying to figure some of that out. I'm sure Ginny can articulate that because she buys on a daily basis. But you're getting used to buying in a different, in a different culture, as it were.
That's brilliant. Thank you. And then I think the final question is the money question, Ash, which is trading in line with market expectations, and what are those expectations?
Thanks, James. The money question indeed. So let me just firstly summarise what the market expectations are. So we have two firms who produce analyst reports on Roslyn. One of those, of course, is our house broker, Cenkos, and the other firm is Equity Development. And the forecast that they have in the marketplace, for Cenkos, they're forecasting revenues of 7.5 million and an operating EBITDA of 100,000. And Equity Development, slightly higher revenues, 7.63 million, and an EBITDA around the same, 91,000. So those are the forecasts in the marketplace. Certainly as we stand now, just reiterating what we said in the announcement at the time of the final results, we've got no reason to believe that we won't be delivering on these numbers. Obviously, as soon as if we had doubts, we would have to release that. But right now, we're perfectly comfortable. Now, clearly, it's not all in the bag because we're halfway through the year, and those numbers are predicated on still selling into the second half. What we have found in the first half, as Roger was saying, is that from the lockdown back in March, April, we did see a slowdown, and obviously we have an April year end. So the first quarter for us was a slow one. What we have found from July onwards is that we've had an increased number of RFIs and RFPs, and increased interaction with potential opportunities. So that is now continuing, and so we are hopeful that obviously that's going to continue. But right now, obviously, we have the backdrop of COVID hanging in the background.
That's great. Thanks, Ash, very much indeed. Someone's got a bit of an echo, so if we could all go on mute, that would be great as I wrap up. I think it's been a really useful session. It's slightly weird to be talking into a camera in your garden shed, but it's something we've all got used to. I'm just used to seeing some of the audience on the other side, so that's a first for me. But I think there's some, it's been a really good year for us. I think the director's report sets it out nicely. We've created a clear vision for where we want to take the future product set. We've strengthened the board and the leadership team, and positioning ourselves for growth. We obviously had the significant fundraising post-period, which put puts a very healthy balance sheet in place. So it's been a really positive year, I think, for Roslyn. Thank you to the shareholders for your support, and thank you to all of the board for their continued hard work in everything that we have been doing. With that, I will say a good day, wrap everybody up and say thank you very much.